Hey guys, my name's SoaR, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how to pick the best agent for you and your playstyle. So let's get right into it. First things first, we're going to talk about agent classes.
There's Initiator, Controller, Duelist, and Sentinel. I'm going to go over each of them and talk about what their strengths are, what their playstyles are, and how you can find which one you want to play. So first, I'm going to go over Duelists. Duelists are aggressive, self-sufficient, they entry frag on the attack side. If your mechanics, you believe them to be better than the other teams, then I think Duelist is the best way to have the most impact. You're just going to have the most opportunities to fight and like show your prowess in terms of mechanics. There's something to note though with Duelist. If you're not willing to fight and you're not willing to make those aggressive plays, make the space for your team, you may be hurting your team. Like if you're a passive player and you're playing Duelist, it may not be the role for you because the other agents don't have the same ability to make space that you do. So just make sure that if you do want to play a Duelist, like you're going to get in there, you're going to make space, you're going to be aggressive. Sentinels. Sentinels is like the opposite of Duelist. They're usually passive, they lurk. They're an information-based type of character. They have like a ratty lurk playstyle on T side, so if you like to play slow and draw out the round, maybe for you. And on defender side, they usually anchor down their site. They don't rotate around too much, you know. They'll have their setup on site and they'll wait until the team hits the other side or they hit theirs. So with Sentinel, your life is valuable on T side because you don't want to die early or like go for the opening duels like a Duelist would, because your life means that the Sentinel utility holding the flank will be up. So if you are someone who like wants to go for the aggressive plays, who wants to get entries, maybe not Sentinel be the best pick because, you know, you want to keep your life alive for that information for your team. Next role would be Initiator. So Initiators are supportive, they're with the team, they're able to gain information. They're good for people who want to be able to trade their teammates and be near the fight without being like the actual entry. You're going to be able to just set your teammates up a lot of the time. You need to be able to adapt in the game, play around the other team's utility and like play around what they're doing, because your utility is like some of the most impactful in the game in terms of being able to set up your duelist. So you have to be able to work together with your teammates, especially if you're going to play Initiator. Next would be Controller. So similar to Initiator in that it's a supportive agent and that it kind of conducts the flow of the round. Smoke util is super impactful, obviously, as you like need it to take certain spaces of control on the map. It's also a passive role in a way, much like Sentinel, that you need to stay alive throughout the round, because if you die super early, like consistently, you're really going to hurt your team because they need your smokes throughout the beginning of the round, middle of the round, and late round for executes. So if you like to stay alive, if you like to have a passive playstyle, conduct the flow of the round, then Controller would be a good choice.
A lot of the time when picking one of these characters, you really want to pick what is best for the map you're playing, but in my opinion, when you're in lower levels of play, the character you're playing or the picking a meta team composition is not as important as just playing something that you're comfortable with and playing something that you're confident on. Say you're playing Icebox and you only have one, and everybody on your team has picked a support character, which is shocking, I know, and there's one more spot left and you can pick either Jett or Reyna. Jett's going to be typically the more meta pick, but if you're more comfortable on Reyna, then why not just play Reyna? It doesn't really matter that much. It's just ranked. You're not in a tournament environment. So until you start getting into super high echelons of ranked play, I think that you should just play the character that you like the best and you are most comfortable on. I highly recommend learning all the characters in general before I continue, because I think that knowing how to play every character gives you a lot of insight into how somebody else is going to play their character. You can read their tendencies, or just, you know, it helps you call for your teammates or IGL your teammates a little bit better in ranked when you know how their characters work and you can tell them what utility you want them to use and how. So overall, I suggest learning every character, but
try and expand your agents to be able to play the most optimal agent on that map within that role. And lastly, don't forget to experiment, because you don't know which role you're really going to enjoy until you try all of them.
If you are a more aggressive style player and you like to take first fights, top picks for those are Jett and Chamber. In my opinion, Chamber for defense. If you're more of a defensive fight first kind of player, I'd think Chamber's probably the best for that on defense. But on attack, Jett definitely has him outclassed for the attack side. You don't really want your Chamber dying on attack side first. You don't want him dying first in general, but it's a lot safer to hold an angle on Chamber on defense than it is to take initial fights. And typically he's not as good of a space creator as like a Jett is. So Chamber and Jett are very good fight first characters, but one of them excels more on one half than the other character. character. If you're more of a, you know, second in kind of duelist player, but you like having utility that you can take map control by yourself, if you like to be able to not have to rely on your teammates' utility, Raze is a really good pick because you can use his nade to clear out corners, his boombot to find information on where people are and where you can swing them. So Raze is a really great pick for that. And you know, if you really like the movement on Raze, she's very, very fun to play. Talking about initiators, if you are a initiator player, usually you're going to be second or third in. You'll be throwing support flashes for your teammates or support utility in general. If you're more of a passive initiator player, I think Sova is probably the better role for you. If you hover on aggression but you just don't have the confidence to be a duelist, I think Skye or KO is pretty much the perfect role. Breach is also very, very good, but Breach also feels a little bit more passive. I put Breach more in the Sova role for playstyle because Breach is sort of more your support flashing for your teammates, but with KO and Skye you can use those flashes to pop flash for yourself in situations that call for it. Talking about Sentinels now, Sentinels are definitely a much more passive playstyle. You're setting up trap situations for yourself, so you want to be in a situation which you're always playing off your utility. You don't want to be taking early fights without your utility, so if you're more of a positional player or somebody that likes to play off your utility to guarantee you more safe kills, Sentinels can definitely be for you. Chamber doesn't really do that. There's not a lot of trap plays that you can make with Chamber. There's some decent combos that you can do with, like, for example, you trip hookah and then raise nades through teleport off of it and they get caught in the slow and the nade. But in general, Chamber's a little bit more of an aggressive Sentinel, so if that's not you, then I suggest Cypher or Killjoy. Cypher, you can hide dirty tripwires in little nooks and crannies to catch people with them and spam them through your cages or smokes or whatever to get people tripped up, caught up, and slow them down on their executes. Very good. Killjoy's very, very good if you're not great at swinging dry. Her turret is very, very good for your turret takes contact and you can peek off your turret, or you can use your turret or your alarm bot for information on when the enemy team is entering a choke point that you want to contest, and then you put Molotovs, you put your Molotovs in that choke point, your swarm grenades, and activate those when people run into your alarm bot or your turret, and you can basically peek off of that and catch players who are trying to get out of your swarm grenades, get out of your setup. So if you're much more of a trap style player on defense where you want to catch people off guard and kill them with your utility rather than taking first fights, Sentinels are very good for that. And then on attack, Sentinels are very good for lurking, playing a little bit more passive, relaying information to your team about what's happening on the other side of the map when they're on, say you're lurking one side of the map and you're calling rotates like, this guy just left this bomb site, they're stacking 3 towards you guys, come back to me, yada yada yada. And then Sage is a weird hybrid. Sage is much more of a flex pick. Sage, let's say like Sage, KO, Skye even. I know these are different classes, but those characters are more like flex roles, and even Viper to an extent. I'll touch on Viper as well, but those 4 characters are kind of like flex roles, so they sort of bend and become better on different maps. For example, Viper is really good on Breeze and Icebox, but isn't really good on, and Bind as well, but isn't really good on Haven or Ascent, but KO is really good on Haven and Ascent. So you can sort of just switch up the character you're playing every game. So you get bored playing one character all the time and you want to be more of a flex style player. Those 4 characters are really good to flex around. You can play Sage on Split as well. Sage is very good on Split, but not really a meta solid pick on any other map. So it's harder to one trick those characters on every map. But if you like that flex style role where you get a little bit of variety, those 4 characters can be really good to interchange. Last but not least, we have Controller. If you're a player that likes to control the pace of the game, you like to control the pace of executes, you like to control how your team plays, Controller is very good for that because you can call, hey, I'm going to smoke this for you. Typically, a lot of IGLs in pro play will play smokes. Recently, some play Sentinels. It really depends on the team, but smokes is a very good role for an IGL to play because you can control the pace of the executes and where the smokes are and when they get to the choke points. So if you like to have a hand on the pulse, if you like to know what's happening around the map and you like to control the pace of executes, Controller role can be a very, very good role for you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Covered all 4 roles. I hope this video helped you guys, and I hope that the next time you come back to this channel, you have found yourself a brand new main.